It's another NWA Spotlight special. I'm obviously your host, Adam Cousins, and my esteemed co-host is in a car in the outskirts of Scotland somewhere, feeling a little bit wet and sorry for herself. VPN, how are we doing?
I'm cold, I'm wet, and I'm miserable, and I'd rather be at home, but I am glad to be here.
Of course, you would always be glad to be here. It's NWA, and it's another Spotlight show. Now, I must remember the right name of this now because I'm getting it wrong all the time. And
Spectaculars.
thank you, Fee. Spectaculars 2.0. I added that bit. You forgot that. Now, with the newest member of the Spectaculars 2.0, Mr. Spencer Slade. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling spectacular. I kind of know a little bit thing of that, but no, feeling great. Happy to be here.
Thank you very much for joining us, Spencer.
Absolutely.
It's not been too long since you debuted on Power, aligned yourself. Have you done the Spectaculars entrance yet with the fire slapping?
Oh, of course not. If I did that, it would probably kill my career. No.
The only reason we ask this is because we don't have access to NWA internationally. It's only on the CW network. So I only just got a VPN last week, so I've only just seen the new season, but I've missed the entire last season. So we've missed an awful lot over here, unfortunately.
No, and I can fill you in a little bit on that. No, I haven't done that dance. I don't know, whatever that dance those two guys do. No, I'm not really a dancing guy. I'm more of just getting it done in the ring kind of guy.
Exactly. As it should. Although I have promised Fiona, should she attend out, so the podcast itself is sponsoring a wrestling show in July this year. So we're basically sponsoring the talent that's coming in for the show. That I would do the Spectaculars dance. So I'm going to have to buy myself a VPN and just remind myself of how that goes. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that much myself. But Spencer, let's talk about your journey into wrestling, because obviously you were new onto our screens on Power, I think last season. Fee, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, or the season before, maybe now because we're into hard times. Talk to us about your journey to the NWA.
Yeah, great question. I'm obviously an American wrestler out here in the United States. I haven't been a wrestling that long. I started wrestling right as a pandemic, had just started, and how this whole NWA thing came about was just kind of by happenstance. The guy I tag team with, Rush. I had known of NWA. I always knew that was a place, it would be a good stepping stone, a good place to get my feet wet. And he just randomly messaged me, asked me if I'd be interested in helping him out and being a new member of the Spectaculars. And I looked at it as an opportunity, as a foot in the door of the NWA, and that's really how the Spectaculars came about. I showed up at the Power tapings they had back in November in Nashville, and debuted the Spectaculars. It's pretty easy transition to get in.
Nice. And when you were sort of in training to be wrestler, who was you sort of looking up to? What wrestlers do you or did you like, or do you still like?
Yeah, number one's always got to be Randy Orton. That's my guy. Randy Orton and Kurt Angle. Those are, if you had to, people tell me all the time, if those two guys had a kid together, I would be it. And that's just those just two guys I like.
Well, two good in terms of in-ring talents. I mean, two of the best that's ever laced them up, I would assume. In a lot of people's eyes. But Fee, from what you've seen of Spencer, and it's Bobby, it's been minimal over here at the minute because of, as you said, the issues that you had. What have you noticed about Spencer that he brings to the party that you particularly like?
Oh, now you put me on the spot here because obviously, I've followed Spectaculars through their previous incarnation. I definitely think, Spencer, that you're bringing the muscle and probably the brains to the unit. I think that would be would you agree with me? That's a fair assumption to make.
I think it is, yes.
I definitely think you might have your work cut out for Orlando somehow. How is that relationship forming? Did you know him beforehand? Obviously, you said you knew Rush. Did you know Rolando before NWA?
I did not know Rolando personally. I mean, I had seen him with Rush, and him and Rolando look so alike that I literally thought they were brothers. I thought Rush had a brother that had stunted growth or something. I literally thought that was his brother, but no, Rolando is just another one of these smaller wrestlers who just happen to kind of look like Rush. And Rolando's been great. I'm sure you've seen some of the natural chemistry that him and I just had in that match that aired yesterday. I never really thought that him and I would have, like it would be a good pairing, but it turned out pretty good yesterday.
Certainly did.
Was
I heard about this. Sorry, Figo.
Yeah, I was going to say, nice little win for you yesterday for sure.
Funny enough, when we talk about wins, we've actually had a message from one of the followers on Twitter that follow our or X, whatever you want to call it now, which follows us NWA stuff that we do, called Figure47 at Figure47. He's asked actually, A, he was looking forward to the interview, and B, he was saying, are you looking ahead towards the national championship rather than the tag championship at NWA?
Oh, that's a good question, and I can confirm yes. I'm really looking forward to the national title. I'm the kind of person that, I'm very confident. I know where I want to be, and I know that I'm the one of the Spectacular group that's going to get all the wins. I'm the one that's going to do everything for the team. So whether it's a tag team with Rush or Rolando, or it's doing singles like you saw last night. I have my sights set on some hardware that I can put around my waist.
Interesting. Interesting about the hardware, because coming up very soon is Fee, your favorite.
My absolute favorite Crockett Cup time. I'm so excited for it. I love tag team wrestling. I got the pleasure of seeing the Crockett Cup in 2022 out in Nashville. I came over, I flew over for it, so that was amazing. But from a tag team point of view, Crockett Cup, do you know if do you have an entry for that? Is it with Rolando? Is it Rush? Do you know, or are you not able to give us anything away yet?
That's a good question. The NWA, they kind of let you know everything, last minute or as it appears on a match graphic. That's just kind of the mystique of the NWA. So I'm not sure if it's going to be myself and Rolando, or if it's going to be myself and Rush, or if it's going to be me, or if it's going to be me and somebody else. I don't know, but that's the beauty of the Crockett Cup is you're going to have to wait and find out and tune in and see who all shows up and who all ultimately wins the Crockett Cup.
Indeed, and that's going to be another one, I suppose, over a few weeks on the CW networks. I think it's another CW signature live event.
Absolutely.
Got to get these things, signature live events, premium live events. I really got to get them sorted out when whatever we're talking about. But you mentioned the Crockett Cup. Is there a particular team that, if you would say you was in it, just for argument's sake, and you're in the Crockett Cup, what sort of teams would you like to be facing in that tournament?
I mean, really, the only team I want to be facing is the people that have the title belts, whether that's the Immortals or Blunt Force Trauma. I think if you're a tag team trying to make a name for yourself, those are going to be one of the two teams that you want to beat and solidify yourself. So those would be the two.
Yeah, and if you're going against Blunt Force Trauma, you have to have eyes in the back of your head due to Mr. Stevens.
You do, and that might be the case where maybe Rolando takes a step out and decides to maybe manage on the outside, and maybe Mr. Little Rolando there can keep his eyes on Stevens. Who knows?
I can see that working actually. That could be quite advantageous for you and Rush if you're two going together and you've got Rolando on the outside. I like where you're going with that.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is our debut match for NWA, I was able to secure the victory for Rush, and I don't think if people who watch NWA realize it, I don't think Rush has ever won a tag team match in his entire life, let alone NWA until he asked me to help him become a winner, and that's what we did in our debut match. So I personally have a little bit of momentum for myself. I don't know about Rush. I think he still needs to get a little bit better in the ring. But I tell him every time that we go out there, please do not mess this up, okay? Whenever you feel like you're losing or you feel like you're going to get beat up or something bad happens, just tag me in. That's all you have to do, and everything will be fine. It'll be a spectacular match if you just let me take everything in my hands.
It certainly worked so far. And if I remember rightly, wasn't that match, if they'd lost it, they'd be gone forever? Is that what the stipulation in the NWA was at the time? I'm sure it was something along those lines.
I believe, yeah, I believe so. I can't even remember because I had one mindset and one mindset only, and that was I'm gonna win this match regardless. I don't care if it's for Rush or Rolando. Those guys are just reaping the benefits of being a winner like me. So uh, I think that was a stipulation, and they should be thanking me because both of them are still in the NWA and they're still spectacular.
They are indeed. It was a rigorous process, if I remember, Fee, watching Power.
Yeah, the auditions, so to speak.
Yeah, they had they were, I mean, there were a couple people that were auditioning for that you know that people have heard of. And there were a couple people that, you know, auditioned for it. I was like, what the hell were they smoking letting these people interview for this? So I'm glad they picked me because I mean, if they would have picked somebody else, I don't think it would have worked out. I don't think it would have been as spectacular as it is now. But you know, who's to say that the spectaculars are going to be more spectacular as you know, as the shows come.
Definitely so. I think one of them was Birchall, Fee.
One of the most virtual,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yes.
which I haven't even. That was the first time I've seen him in probably a decade.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him since, you know, since I think he was
Since his
he was like a
pirate
pirate
days.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a pirate. When you've got obviously when you got into NWA and you started, there's obviously a lot of, you know, experience there, you know,
Oh
whether
my
it's
God, yeah.
backstage or whether it's, you know, in front of the camera. Was it important? Did you start tapping into some of those for advice and bits and pieces?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Number one, I'm the kind of person that, you know, I always try to utilize connections to people that are, you know, in the vicinity of you. I mean, I don't think people realize how much knowledge there is in NWA. I mean, starting from, you know, you have one of the producers there. You have Dr. Tom Pritchard, who, you know, pretty much trained to Rock and Kurt Angle and every single person you've seen on TV the last 20 years. So you had the best resource him there. You have Aaron Stevens, who does a lot of promo stuff behind the scenes. You know, you have a guy, you have Homicide who's there. Even Billy Corgan. I mean, even he's real smart too. And then you have guys that've been doing it for a while, like Knox and Murdoch. You have Latimer there. You have a couple of guys like that. Rodney Mack, who's in that tag team. You got a lot of people there that have, you know, been around the block.
Yeah, certainly. And it is really important that you're kind of like a sponge around them and really absorb kind of everything that they say or any little advice. Even it's like, you know, you're having your match and they come back and say, have you thought about this? Or can you tweak that? Or you're doing this great, but perhaps implement something else. It's really important that you take that advice on board and to try and perhaps sometimes you obviously tweak it, but sometimes keep it. Yeah, actually, I don't agree with that. I'm going to stick with what I'm doing.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's the great thing about the NWA. As soon as as soon as you're done and you're back there, you've already got people that are waiting to give you critique, advice, feedback, you name it. And that's really the great thing about the NWA is, you know, they've got a lot of huge plans that I'm sure everybody's going to, you know, start seeing here pretty shortly, just with the CW app. And they're really trying to position themselves as like an alternative to all the other companies out there. And that's what I like about the NWA is they don't accept anybody. I mean, they're not really interested in your typical indie wrestlers who I hate to say it, but look like Jiffy Lube workers and do a bunch of moves, but yet they can't throw a punch like a real grown out adult man. They don't want people like that. They want people that look like wrestlers that treat it seriously and take it seriously. And that's what I personally love about the NWA.
Yeah, definitely. So, Fee, you must have some questions. Go for it because you love the
No, I do. The NWA has been my baby for a long time. I am very fond of it. And if it wasn't for me, Adam wouldn't be here today because he just got sick of seeing all my tweets and my posts on Instagram about it and stuff. So Tuesday night is absolutely my NWA night. But you've spoken about the locker room, and that's kind of something I want to come back to. Everyone that we've spoken to over the last year has raved about the locker room and how it's probably been one of the most welcoming locker rooms that they've ever kind of set foot in. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't believe it too when I first came in November. I mean, this was like I said, this is the first time that I had ever come to NWA. I mean, I was blown away by how many people, had already known, who I was. Just from doing a bunch of the top indies and really promoting yourself on social media. So, yeah, I mean, it's been nothing but great. I mean, I'll put you like this way: if you paid me $1 million to say something negative about the NWA locker room, I couldn't take it because I can't. It's great.
Yeah, definitely
That
seems. Go on,
That's
Pete.
really nice. No, I was just going to say, like, as a fan who is such a big fan, that's really, really nice for me to hear that. Actually, that's cool. That makes me my little heart happy.
Yeah, it's great, and I think you're gonna. I think you saw that yesterday with like the new presentation they're doing on the CW network. You're seeing a little bit better match quality. I think you're really the locker room's great, and now I think you're starting to kind of see everything else is going to start being greater. In ring product, presentation, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, we've certainly seen. We've seen one of the things that we picked up on Fee over the last couple of seasons. So was that presentation, the difference, the way it felt a lot more. Obviously had that NWA's always had that old school feeling, and you're always going to have that. But they've kind of brought the 2024 presentation style into it, and it's always interesting because a lot of other companies have recently changed presentation on television that I've seen. But the NWA, it just has that bigger feel to it now than perhaps 2 or 3 seasons ago, Spencer.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the most important thing because I mean, you guys know everything's about streaming and about presentation now. I mean, especially pro wrestling, it's all visual presentation. I mean, it's all about how things are shot, how you look, what your posture is. So anything that you can do to enhance the visual presentation, that's what you want to do. And a company like NWA, who's probably still would like to stick to that old school looking presentation, they're still going out of their way to try to make it, try to suit like today's wrestling presentation.
Yeah, definitely. So it definitely looks at, as I say, the presentations come on leaps and bounds. And also, what's really good, and I've been noticing a bit more, Fee, just before I pass to you, is the tweets that are saying about how now they've had to put more seats out for the fans. It's obviously working now because
Yeah.
thousands of people turned out for the last few tapings. And it must be a good feeling when you go out there and that raucous crowd's there.
It's insane. I mean, I can't even tell you, especially at the hard times that we did. That was in Dothan, Alabama. It was at the Dothan Civic Center, which is a place that like old school like Crockett territory used to run back in the day. And I can tell you firsthand, there's nothing going on in Dothan, Alabama. I can tell you that. Okay. But for some reason, there was like almost 3,000 people at the Civic Center. I mean, there was more people than the seats. There was standing room. They had to turn people away. It just amazed me how many people came. It wasn't like we were running in Atlanta, Georgia, or some huge, millions of people. We were running in Dothan, Alabama. I couldn't believe how many people came to that show. And you don't get a chance to physically see the people until you actually go out there. So, you couldn't like peek through a curtain or see anybody. It literally, when you went out there, and that's the first time you saw the people. It was crazy.
It looked great on TV. Like the crowd looked absolutely phenomenal when I watched it earlier.
Yeah, what's funny is like I said, that show was that show was the first weekend of March when we did it. So it's been almost a month now since we actually had it. And you don't realize watching it back how many more people there were on the screen just like there were in person. Like it goes back to the presentation, it just looks so good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
No, I was going to say, sorry, Adam. I was going to say, have you been to the studios? Obviously, you're going to Tampa this Friday and Saturday, for a series of tapings, which is awesome. I've been to
Yeah.
the studios there for tapings before. Have you been in those studios?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
They're a lot
with
smaller, aren't they? And obviously, I like the vibe though. I like the crowd being right there and the wrestlers being right on top of you almost. I love the atmosphere in the TV studios.
Yeah, it actually, so the studios now, they're bouncing. I mean, they've been bouncing around between, Nashville or Tampa. Like we're going back to Tampa where we were in the first or second week of January. It's just big giant PBS studios like news stations. It's huge, and they do a really good job of setting that up. And
Yeah.
they're not looking to pack the studio of 1,000 people, they're only looking to put maybe 100 people in their tops, but those 100 people, like I said, are getting a really like a once in a lifetime opportunity. They're legit being inside like an actual wrestling studio, how it was back in the day. So I like it. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it certainly does. It does that old school feel, as we mentioned earlier. Definitely is, which is great. But one of the things that have come out more recently has been the territories returning. This is a really good thing, and I think, you know, in other promotions they do other things to get that next generation talent there. But obviously, going back to the territories is going to be massive for NWA to find that talent, that next kind of, you know, the next maybe Kenzie Page, rather than saying she's only 19 or better, but what she's been doing already. They can go to the territories and now find some more. That's going to be very important for the future of the NWA.
Yeah, and I think you're seeing that now. So what you see in the NWA is you have like their main roster, which is the Power, and then they have this new thing called Exodus, which is like their almost like their NXT of NWA, and that's where Billy Corgan and his crew are trying to find like, you know, who are the next upcoming indie guys that I like to call are like hidden gems. You know, they might not be known to to the masses yet, because everybody's got to start somewhere. You know, you don't just start out at like Randy Orton to be a household name. It doesn't work like that, unless if you're Ric Flair's son or somebody, you know. But that's the beauty of it, is that they're having all these Exodus territories around here to find who's going to be the next person to come to Power, who's going to step up to the plate, stuff like that, which is, well, you know, which is obviously, because I'm a huge I love old territory wrestling, so it's good to see that being brought back.
Yeah, definitely. So, Fee, before we wrap up, you always get the last question because this is your baby. So, go right ahead.
Oh, I'm totally not prepared for this. I'm so sorry. No, go obviously, I'm gonna ask you the same thing that I asked. Well, I suppose you kind of answered it earlier. If you had the choice and you could take on any one of the champs tomorrow, who would you go for?
Honestly, I'm all about being the top guy. So obviously, the current NWA champion would have to be EC3. I mean, that's if you didn't get into the business to be the top person, then I don't know what you're doing it for. But EC3, that way, if Billy Corgan said, "Hey, tomorrow it's going to be you versus EC3 in Anchorage, Alaska. We need you to be there right now." I was like, "Yes, sir, I'll be there."
Wow, interesting. Funny enough, EC3's just come back from the UK where he's fought your friend.
Yeah, it was over across the pond, and you're kind of near you guys. So
he had a match on Saturday with one of my friends from Glasgow, which was pretty cool. Yeah.
He had a match with someone that we borrow the ring from.
Wow, small world. Well, I'll see him. I will see him Friday and Saturday. I'll let him know that I did a podcast with two people that know the person that the EC3 should have lost the title to.
Indeed. Yeah. He's actually been on the show before.
Saying, right?
Before he won the £10 of gold, EC3 was on here.
Wow, that's
back end of last year. Not long before we had Bischoff, I think, the first time.
Yeah.
It was kind of that, but he was the first time. But Spencer, as we wrap up now, can you let the fans know, look, if they want to shout you on socials or anything like that, what's all your social media?
Absolutely.
What have you got coming up?
Absolutely, yeah. Social media is a huge thing. I'm always posting at least 2-3 times a day. You can follow me on Instagram at Slade Wrestling. Twitter is at Slade Wrestler. Facebook, if any of you people still out there use Facebook, it's Spencer Slade. For any of you older fans, I don't use MySpace anymore. I don't think anybody does.
I've still got mine.
I always plug that all the time. I don't have MySpace. Sorry. My YouTube channel, Spencer Slade, has all that content there. But I'm pretty blessed. I mean, I'm one of the few people here in the States that's kind of booked every weekend for the rest of the year. So,
wow.
This week is NWA Friday, Saturday in Tampa. Then the following weekend we have MCW, which is Maryland Championship Wrestling, Saturday, Sunday, and then the end of April we have ESW Saturday, then BPW Sunday. And then it starts all over again in May. So that's kind of what I'll be up to here these next 2 to 3 weeks.
Brilliant. Fee, I know you've got the weekend. Well, you've got the weekend off. What's coming up on your radar?
That's a really, really good question. I know it's like my first weekend off in months, so no shows this weekend. I have some stuff next weekend. I can't remember whether it's W3L next weekend or not. This is honestly,
Why don't you
I'm
do the
still,
inside the ropes? You would have got in trouble if you last
I
time.
know I would have got in trouble. So yeah, other than my MCing for W3L and Premier British Wrestling and British Championship Wrestling and Main Event Entertainment and Pro Wrestling Scotland, oh, that's a lot. So I MC for all of them. I have no shows with any of them this weekend, which is good. But we have just announced with Inside the Ropes a tour with Jake Roberts on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of June in Glasgow, Manchester, and London. Tickets are on sale for that, general admission and VIP meet and greets from itrtix.com. So if you want to meet Jake the Snake, who I am slightly scared to meet, he terrified me when I was a young child. Yeah, head on over to ITRtix. So Inside the Ropes. It'll be a good couple of days.
Jake the Snake has also been on this show as well. So I've
Oh,
not met him
cool.
like in person, but I've met, we've had a chat with him like we've done here. Just a quick one for me before we finish. Coming up is Ignite. Well, we're going to be Ignite Wrestling Pro with our men's champion, Smashing Mike. He'll be going up one-on-one. He'll be putting the title on the line against the brilliant James Ellis from Wales. So the title may be going back to quote-unquote brilliance country, Fee. If you believe James Ellis. So that's our men's champion. Our women's champion, Luna, is currently recovering from injury. So it will get well soon, Ali. And we'll see you very soon. The show will be at Ignite Wrestling on April the 21st. And then our very own sponsored show on July the 14th at Boreham Wood. Matches, appearances will be announced in due course. But Spencer, it has been fantastic to have you on. It's fantastic and spectacular to have you on as well. I didn't get it wrong once during this show, so I'm a bit let off the hook. You can see Spencer. You can see Spencer and all the other NWA guys on the CW app for NWA Power on a Tuesday. But thank you so much, Spencer. We wish you all the success. We look forward to watching you on NWA on the CW app. And until next time, everybody, this has been the NWA Spotlight Show with Spencer Slade, Fiona Loughran, and me, Adam Cousins. Goodbye and good night.